from Gang and Narcotics Division, they kind of ask them, hey, what do you have, and then they'll say, oh, I got this many guns in the back. They'll go start, preparing the gift card with it. If the person doesn't know what it is, when they bring it in, if they could let us know at least what they do know, maybe get out of their car, because last year, a guy drives in, the Gang and Narcotics Division officer says, what do you have in the back? He says, I don't know, it's wrapped in a towel. Where'd it come from? I don't know. How'd you get it? It was in my house. I brought it. Okay, like she said, there's no questions asked. However, it was a military-issued weapon, a Law's rocket, which is an anti-tank weapon. It was already expended, so somebody has brought it. It had been fired, and somebody had brought it to that place, but it also had a fuse in the actuator switch, which looked like it was a fabricated bomb. So that's not something you see every day. It's not something I see every day. I'm familiar with pretty much all makes and models of weapons that you would fire from your hand that are a pistol, a rifle, or a shotgun. Mm-hmm. But this is a tubular rocket. So that was kind of interesting. We had to call the bomb squad on that. They're very dangerous. The older they get, the more fragile they are, and they can go off. So let's get to the gang stuff. So like I said, predominantly it's Hispanic gangs and Mission Division. This is a picture of Hispanic gangs. The San Fernando Valley itself, the entire San Fernando Valley, is dotted with gangs, Hispanic gangs all over the place. If you talk to what we call OG or an old gangster from San Fer, which is a gang that we have in Silmar, for the most part right now, San Fer will tell you that they originally claimed the San Fernando Valley before it was actually a metropolitan area, back when it was orchards and stuff like that. So if you talk to an OG San Fer gang member and you ask them, where's the neighborhood, they'll say the entire San Fernando Valley. However, we have all kinds of other streets that pop up that claim those individual streets. Hispanic gangs are traditionally and generally named after a street or area that they're on. Like we have Blythe Street. The original area that they started that gang in was Blythe Street. We have Langdon Street, which Langdon is a street right over here. Originally, the Langdon gangs started out in the 70s as a Sepulveda gang, and they called them Cepas. So it kind of mutated from Cepas or Sepulveda to Langdon Street gang. We have Columbus, their main strongholds on Columbus Street. We have Vincenttown, which is another major Hispanic gang, and they originally started out as a family inside of Columbus Street, and then they had a big feud, they broke off, and they claimed Vincenttown from a small pueblo in Mexico, Vincente, I think is what it was actually called. So, gangs commit most of their crimes in their own neighborhoods, burglaries, thefts, drugs, and then violent crimes with murders and assaults, extortions, rapes, robberies, all that kind of stuff. The motive for most of those is to somehow generate money or fear in the neighborhood so that the next time they do want to commit a crime, if that fear is already generated in the neighborhood, all they have to do is say who they are and there's less resistance. Gang by definition is 3 or more persons who engage in the criminal activity. Most of the Hispanic gangs model themselves after the Italian gangs of the 30s, the Al Capones, and that kind of stuff. The black gangs did not. So they're in the Hispanic gang realm or subculture, whatever you want to call it, there is a hierarchy and a respect, and there is a boss and that kind of thing. And if a boss issues an order, it goes down the line, and they kind of follow that. That doesn't happen in black gangs. Almost all black gangs are motivated strictly by money and individual money. So a black gangster in South Central won't necessarily listen to anybody above him unless that person can make them listen by force or fear. But they'll go out and do whatever they want in any neighborhood they want, but they'll band together when they're being attacked by other neighborhoods and claim a certain gang. The Rolling 60s gang is one of the biggest black gangs that we've had in the city of Los Angeles, and at one point they were like 3,000 strong. So that's a lot of people. 18th Street has been documented as the biggest gang in the city, the biggest Hispanic gang in the city of Los Angeles, and they were about 3,500 strong, documented. We have about, I want to say, 15 to 1,700 documented Sanford gang members over 50 years. They can exist in any neighborhood. There are Asian gangs, there are white gangs, there are African American gangs, there's gangs of every race. It's just, you won't see them necessarily in every part of the communities that you guys are in because they aren't. There are white gangs in Devonshire Division. There are, there's not an Asian gang stronghold in Devonshire, but there was a particular billiard parlor that a lot of Asian gangs used to hang out in Devonshire Division, but they don't claim that as their neighborhood. And generally, as far as victims go, whatever the gang is race-wise, they pretty much stay to victimizing their own race. We have had blacks versus Hispanics and vice versa, but you don't see Asian gangs going out and robbing Hispanic communities or anything like that. They want to stay within their own community because they create that fear and that presence of this is who we are. And unfortunately, a lot of Asian immigrants in this country don't trust the financial bank system, so they keep a lot of their money home. So the Asian gang members know that. So they know that if they hit a traditional Asian person that's not going to keep their money in a bank, that they can get the money at home. So they do a lot more home invasion robberies than we see a lot more street crime. Armenian gangs, when the Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR, broke up and each individual country again got their status, Armenia kicked out about 50,000 of their criminals out of their capital city of Yerevan. Those are all Armenian organized crime, and they came to, not all 50,000 came to Los Angeles, a large portion came to Los Angeles. They developed a stronghold, so we have Armenian power, and we have our Armenian organized criminals who are basically like the Al Capone types of them. But a lot of them came here, and Armenian gangs like to emulate Hispanic gangs, so they'll look like a Hispanic gang, tattoos, that kind of thing. This is a particularly good photo because you can see this guy has tattoos all over his face. Tattoos are a language system for gangsters, and it's a threat and fear system that they believe they can use in the community. So I don't know how anybody feels about tattoos, it doesn't matter as long as you look at it, that it is a language system. Just like graffiti is a language system. If I don't have any tattoos and I walk up to a Hispanic gang member, they're not gonna see that language from me. But if I do have 18th Street on my forehead and I walk up to MS, that's gonna be an instant issue right there because those are two rival gangs, and if the other guy's got an MS tattoo that I can see and I'm from 18 and vice versa, then I know right there that that's an enemy conflict type thing. So the white gangs do the same thing. They use a lot of 666, Nazi stuff, lightning bolts, swastikas. That's a language message that's readily visible for them, to them, and to everybody else that they're trying to create fear and there are a lot of, just like any other business, anything in the society, there's a lot of women behind the men in those gangs. So women will generally, before this department, I'm talking years ago, but before this department had more female officers, the thought of the gangsters was we'll give the gun to the female because male officers can't search them. Now we have 35%, 40% female officers, and I have, in my unit I have 12 people and I have 3 females in my gang unit. So there's none of that, well, you can't search me, you just bring a female officer and have them search. Lo and behold, they're carrying the gun. They do the same thing with the narcotics. It's just a mentality of them. They're resistant to change as much as anybody else. So here's the tattoos used in the communication, gang membership. I don't know this particular gang, but 155 on the front of his forehead must have been something pretty particular that he wanted everybody to see because he put that right on his forehead. Gang members that put the tattoos on their heads will usually shave their heads because you can't really see the tattoos, it's covered up by a lot of hair. And like I said, that's our message. There's a lot of different messages they can send. 91352, one of our zip codes in this division. So that one right there is tell you from one of our gang members or one of our gangs in our division because they're using the zip code here for Panorama City, North Hills type thing. A lot of times the tattoo will have their name on it, their own name, like their last name, Mendez, Smith, Johnson, whatever. There's a good one for Armenian Power. So if that guy was at a beach not wearing a shirt, everybody knows where he's from or who he is. And that's a way for them to instill fear in the other people in the community. I used to be able to mimic hand signs. I can't do it anymore, but they have certain hand signs that we call, the term is throwing up. They, as your hands go up, they throw up the hand sign. That enough is sometimes enough for a challenge or to instill fear in people. I don't have the dexterity to be able to make that kind of stuff, but they practice it. And if you actually get a gangster that knows what he's doing, you can actually see, in their hand signs, you can see what they're trying to communicate. Because it's not like universal sign language, but they have their own sign. Yeah. If you can see right there, you can see that this almost looks like a B right here in the middle. BC maybe, I don't know. BCC, HBCC, but that's kind of what they do. They can interpret that. They know what that is amongst them and around them.
I think it's HOOD.
Was that good?
Yeah. I can see. Oh yeah, lead. Okay, lead.
It could be. I've seen so many different ones that they all just kind of run together to me. And like I said, if you can get somebody who can actually articulate with their hands well, then you can kind of read them. Unfortunately, what one person signs is interpreted by whoever is watching it, right? So just like we all came up with different things, they're doing these or flashing and throwing up these gang signs really quickly, and it's hard to see what they're saying sometimes. I can see where that might be a deal or a deal. I can also see where it might be a that was a little more easy to see, Project Boys, E and a B. So the graffiti tells another thing. I know that the graffiti is big in our neighborhoods here. It's an eyesore, it's a crime, it's vandalism, it damages property. But it's also a language, and so for us, we want to read that. Anything that, any gang member, or any gang that is affiliated with the Hispanic gang, the Mexican Mafia, which most of ours here are, in Southern California, we call again throwing up or paint that X and 3 for 13. M is the 13th letter of the alphabet, Mexican Mafia is the double M. So you can see over there on the far edge of that graffiti, there's an X and a 3. So they usually put their gang, if they're traditional, they'll put their gang, their moniker, or their nickname, and then their barrio. Usually there's a V or a B sign with an arrow pointing down saying this is the neighborhood. Sometimes they don't get all that up. Sometimes they just put up the gang, like BST for Bly Street, and that's it. Norteños, there is a northern prison gang, in Nuestra Familia. So if you're in Northern California, they'll throw up a 14 instead of a 13. However, we do have one gang in Southern California that puts up a 14, but they are affiliated with Mexican Mafia, and that's Plantón. Plantón, because originally Plantón came off 14th Street, way, way, way back. So they'll throw up a 14, but they're affiliated with the Mafia. Sometimes they'll throw up a 13 and a 14. It's hard to tell. Did you see, does that say B? Yeah, this one is Bly Street right here, BSD. After they're putting up DKS and the RB, it looks like RCS. Can't read that one, it's kind of floating, but there's different sub-cliques of each gang. So there's a Rascals and a Dukes in Bly Street. But that one looks like the moniker there. That one's pretty obvious, pretty easy to read. Traditionally, gang graffiti was done in Old English block letters, and that's how you tell it different from just a tagger or a graffiti person who's trying to put stuff up so they can get like Facebook stuff and all that. The more they communicate this way and put on social media, the more they feel like they're going to get praise or acceptance. So I don't understand how committing a crime equates to acceptance. But, so in the past, traditional gang members from the 50s and 60s wore a certain kind of clothing. They've gone away from that to using now like baseball caps to identify themselves. When I first started in the 90s, a gangster would would look like shaved head, pressed pants, whether they were jeans or khakis, a white t-shirt, and Nikes. That was like the gangster uniform. They don't do that anymore. MS, right now, MS gangsters, you can't tell them from skater kids. They look like skater kids. You know, anything that they can to not draw our attention, they do. They don't shave their heads, they don't show their tattoos, yet they'll come in groups of 3 or 4 and extort people for money. At Fulton, at the park over off of the 170, they're having an issue right now with the Fulton clique of MS extorting soccer players to play soccer at the park. So they don't always dress or look like a gangster. The color red was traditionally started by the Bloods. It kind of transferred over to Hispanics. It doesn't mean that if it's a Hispanic gang member because they're wearing red, there's a Blood. That's 2 separate things. Crips and Bloods are black gangs. Hispanic gangs are turf-based and usually use the name from their neighborhood. So here's a bunch of Crips. That was a Blood. There's a bunch of Crips. 13 usually represents the Mexican Mafia. So here, what can we do in the community? Intervention and prevention is probably the best. If you get a child that comes to you guys as the clergy, and you can get them before they're 13, 14, and get them squared away and realize that there's more to life than just their neighborhood, you might be able to get them out of whatever problems they're experiencing or opportunity in the gang. By 14, 15, they've had their exposure. 16, 17, they're probably hardcore in the gang. Some of them don't live to 18. They make it past 30, they're doing pretty good, but it seems like a lot of the draw from the neighborhood keeps them coming back. We don't have an injunction anymore, so this doesn't apply. Sorry. Oops. The gang injunction, I'll go over real quick. The gang injunction was a civil order by the court restricting the abilities of gang members to congregate or commit certain crimes that were not necessarily before considered crimes, but like infraction crimes like drinking in public. There was a safety zone originated in each injunction, and if the gang member was in that safety zone and violated one of those, they could be arrested for the injunction, which was a misdemeanor. However, the state of California has decriminalized a lot of misdemeanors, or a lot of felonies to misdemeanors now. And in that, they also, the ACLU put up a pretty good lawsuit saying the injunction was an illegal thing. So we don't have an injunction anymore because there was too many judges that started believing with the ACLU. Part of the benefit of this country is that everybody has certain rights, and it takes a court order or a judge to negate those rights for you or against you, so that they take away some of those rights based on your criminality or whatever. And so they decided that the gang injunction was not completely legal, and we don't have it anymore, we can't use it. It doesn't mean that those people still aren't going to be out there committing the things they did before. It just means we as the police lost that tool to arrest them for smaller charges that we could then make into a bigger charge and keep them off the street for longer. Suppression. So my gang unit assists in arrests and patrol officers and all that, and they testify as experts. There are California laws that say if you get a gang enhancement in your criminal activity, then you'll do more time. Unfortunately, that's even going away now too. So we're in a trend right now where California voters have decided that crime isn't, I mean, even though everybody's a victim of crime, if you look at the laws that have been made, they're getting decreased on what it can actually do for crime or to prevent crime. So as you guys, from what I understand, it's the clergy stuff, it's, if you have people that are talking about that, they need to actively understand what they're voting for. Because a lot of the stuff that is put up for vote, when you're doing a ballot or something, most people don't read it in its entirety. And it's, hey, we're gonna do this, but they don't talk about all this other stuff that law says. So, we don't do ceasefire anymore either, because one of our ceasefire, teeth, one of the part of the teeth in ceasefire to get the gang members to come in and stop their gang activity was probation and parole. And now probation and parole has completely changed in this state where it no longer has any teeth to make these guys come in. And a lot of the people that we would have called in before that would have been on probation and parole are not even getting probation and parole anymore. So with the decriminalization of a bunch of crimes, it's put less people on probation or patrol, which was a tool for law enforcement to use to say, look, if you don't comply, we're gonna violate your whatever, and you're gonna have to go back to jail or prison. Well, we have somebody now that don't even have those conditions that this doesn't apply. I think that's probably, that slide over there is probably the best one for this whole part of today. I didn't grow up here in this community or in Southern California, so I have a unique, or not unique, but I have a different outlook about it because I wasn't ingrained in it as a child or as a young adult. But it's given me a different way to see it too, where there's a lot more emotion involved in each of the communities. I don't have that because I wasn't invested here in the community when I was growing up. But I can tell you that anything, support and counseling from clergy, family members, any other group is what's gonna help all of us take that 12 or 13-year-old child that's considering doling off into the gang subculture and get them away from that. Because people that have the experience to talk about stuff need to get a hold of those, and a lot of the times it's I see it here as a big deal. You know, mom and dad are both hardworking people, but mom and dad are gone 16 hours a day working. So that child doesn't have a lot of the guidance or support that other children have that don't get involved. So they turn to the clouded support that they think they're gonna get from a gang, and the next thing you know, they're involved in drugs or crimes, where if they had that support from somebody else, they might not. So that old adage that it takes a village to raise a child, it really does. Because if mom and dad are working so hard to provide a life for that child and can't be there, then somebody has to step in and help out. And that's, you know, where I think the clergy comes in really well. Assistance and tutoring. I went to school in a place where I had one high school graduate, one high school person in my class that didn't graduate. But we have, LAUSD where the dropout rate was 56%. The higher the education, the better the understanding, the easier it is to get away from this kind of stuff. So education, and there's so many opportunities across the country and across the world to get higher education or to get a better education than you already have that some of the kids just don't know about it. Like I said, if we could just get them to think outside their own little 4 or 5 square block neighborhood. Some of the kids that I've dealt with, they've never been outside the city of Los Angeles. So all they know is the city of Los Angeles. I grew up in the state of Idaho. I've been to the East Coast, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Great Britain. But I took that all upon myself to get that other, I don't want to say worldly, but the global knowledge that this isn't the only place. And if we can give those kids the support, the counseling, get them away from the influence of the gang and make them understand there is something else, then that can open their eyes and hopefully they'll latch on to that and want to get away from that other bad stuff. Tattoo removal, I don't know if each individual clergy that you guys represent or are affiliated with have that, but it's definitely if somebody has 18 tattooed on their forehead and they want to get out, that needs to be either covered up or removed. So, because if it isn't, like I said, that's, even if that's not the language that they want to portray anymore because they want out, it's not a language they can get rid of that easy. So that's a big benefit. And then the job training and placement, if you give a troubled person, not just a kid, if you give a troubled person something else to focus on like a job, then it usually just takes away their opportunity for bad behavior. So, yes, sir.
So Providence, St. Joseph Hospital has been involved in tattoo removal for more than 20 years.
Okay.
And we recently moved it, with the generosity of our Providence Basie Medical Group, to actually move it to the Mission Hills.
Oh, right here across the street.
Here, between our building here and, our Mission Hills Clinic. So we've been doing it for a number of years, and it's been transformational, as you indicated. Individuals that they really wanted to change because these are marks that inhibit their ability to seek employment. So it's a big step for them. So we're very grateful to partner with our community in this regard.
When is that opening? What date?
I'm not sure when it's moving. I know it's in the next.
To let us know, and we can get this
Yes,
out,
yes.
get
Thank
this
you.
information.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
No, thank you.
I just want to say I'm in total agreement, with,
But,
we've been doing tattoo removal also for 6 years. And I'm in total agreement with you as far as, the individuals to make the commitment to kind of rid themselves of the past and move forward. We were able to help them along with the removal and all the stuff that you see there. There was the jobs, there was education, all those components. Pretty hard walking into, to try to do a job where it says FLAPD, and you want to do customer service. So again,
and the sad thing is, I don't understand that part of the tattoo subculture. I don't have tattoos myself. But they do get it on some of the hardest places to get rid of. I saw a girl that had fuck LAPD on her eyelids, so when she was drawing, it said fuck LAPD. When you go for a job interview and you blink, that's kind of noticeable, and Blythe Street, our game Blythe Street here uses the B for Blythe Street. So we have Blythe Street gang members that have bumblebees tattooed on their face, on their cheek. And that's, when you're going to get a job, when you're trying to tell somebody you're not really involved anymore, but you still have that tattoo on your face, that's kind of a hard one to, pull off, that, no, I'm not still involved. Yet you have that on your face.
Well, we want to thank Sergeant Spackman for helping us out today. We appreciate the great presentation that gave him around. Hey, a little bit longer. Do you have any questions?
Do you have
Are we gonna
any
move
other
on?
questions I didn't mention?
Yes, we're gonna move on in the interest of time.
Right.
Thank you, thank you.
Sorry.
can I ask a question?
Oh, there's
Oh, I'm
one
sorry.
question?
Yeah, with
Okay.
these kids that are, getting involved in gangs and stuff like that, they should be referred to people that, organizations that do gang intervention programs and stuff like that. Because we do anger management and then we do group, field trips and stuff like that. So to kind of alleviate all this stuff with these young kids, getting involved with their gangs, officers should take the time to refer them over to the agency. Because sometimes they need that first chance.
Right. We do have a program for that.
Yeah.
We have a deferral program. That's at the discretion of our watch commander, because the problem with what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, is we usually don't have contact with them until they commit a crime.
Yeah.
So once they commit a crime, now they've committed a crime, that becomes the issue.
Right.
It's not like we are going out into the neighborhood to, like, my officers go out to suppress just gang crime.
Right.
We're not seeing kids come up at 12 and say, oh, I want to get in the gang, what should I do? Or I don't want to get in the gang, what should I do? That's what you guys are going to see long before we ever do, because you're going to hear that from the parents or something like that. Unfortunately, our contact with them is when they commit a crime. And once they do commit a crime, then there's a victim involved and there's other legal stuff, so that we have a program like you're saying, and it goes through the watch commander when they've committed a crime, and some of it has been successful. But even though, like what you're saying, and like what the gentleman over here was saying, is they have to want to do that first.
Yeah.
Because we can refer them if they never go. We can give them a ticket or less charge, and the parents, need to go. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the times, because they go to warrant, be arrested for the warrant, the parents won't even go to court with the kid when it's a ticket.
Yeah.
So making a referral, basically the ticket is a referral, you gotta go to court. Making that referral is only gonna work if it's been instilled in them that they wanna make that change, or they actually want to make that change. We do have a program in place already for that, sir. It's called the Juvenile Deferral Apprehension Program.
Okay.
But like I said, it's, the officers get the juvenile, it's for an arrest because they committed a crime, bring it into the watch commander here, who's the guy in charge, and then he has to make sure it meets a list of criteria before you can do that.
But you're saying that through the gang unit, right? Because the slows would be reaching them way before they would get in trouble, so it's not a police, you're not speaking as the LAPD, you're speaking as the gang
As
unit.
far as what?
You're saying you only see them when they commit the crime, or after they commit the crime?
Yeah, most of the time, my officers and patrol officers will only see them when they have already committed crimes. The SLOs and the community resource officers, yes, they may see them long before because they have different programs. But there's a whole bunch of different facets of this department that have contact with people that, even if we're not talking about gang members, just juveniles that are stealing cars. Sometimes they might have, the community resources SLOs might have more contact with those families of those people that are doing that before we ever see them as a gang officer or a regular patrol officer, and then we only see them when they're caught in a stolen car.
But like us, like, you know, we notice, you know, the individuals that are coming up in the neighborhood, you know, they're not in the gang yet. And we notice them, you know, we know that, you know, they're starting to get into that element. And I know the line officers, they see them also out there, hey, who's that? You know? And they keep watching them, they keep seeing them coming around. Eventually, he's throwing a rock at a car and stuff like that, just to show his, who he is. But then after that, you know, he's starting getting into the gang. But when he's starting to do that, you know, being in the neighborhood too much, that's what I'm talking about. 'Cause sometimes we see them, and sometimes we don't see them, and then I know the line officers always see them out there. They thought, hey, they gotta go over here, hand up, you know,
So are you saying you want to develop a relationship with an officer before they get to that point, right?
Well, an officer, you know, when they get to that point where they're gonna make that final decision to get into the gang,
So
when the
would-
kid,
so-
boom, refer them.
So would that be the
There's a
slow,
lot of
that's the
kids that are
relationship we're
out
trying to
there.
build here?
You know, Officer
Well,
Huerta
yeah.
can answer this question for you best.
I work the Jeopardy program, which is
Okay.
working with at-risk
Thank
youth,
you.
at-risk youth or juveniles potentially wanting to be involved in any gang.
Mhm.
I work with middle school children. Again, like I've said, that's probably the most rewarding, this is probably the most rewarding assignment I've ever been assigned. And I've worked with cadets, because I was an explorer for 5.5 years. So now I'm working with really, really troubled teens growing up in foster care, growing up with, you know, they're being raised by people that aren't their parents. Is apartment complex managers raising 3 kids. And whatever I can do for them, I'm going to do. So I have to keep them busy because I know when they're with me, they're not being victimized and they're not getting in trouble. I keep them busy. That's my job. I need to get them to graduate from middle school.
Right.
But if they're at 3rd, 4th grade reading level, they fight it. They don't want to do anything because it's embarrassing. They can't read. They can't. So I'm working with them very closely to get them to read. Hey, let's do your homework together. Let me explain. Let me have dialogue with you so you understand what's going on versus do your homework. That doesn't work for them. That doesn't work.
No, I understand that. I raised a bunch of kids myself, and you have to spend a lot of time.
I do.
And, you know, with my clients, I spend a lot of time with them, not even doing court with them, this with them, do that with them, this, just to keep them, you know, just to keep their interest in being out on the streets and in school,
Right.
getting their education.
You are their stability. That's what we are for them. So I appreciate that because the kids I don't reach and you do, that means more to them than you know. I go and sit in class with my kids. We go hang out at the bridge where there's a bunch of kids fighting after school. We hang out there
Right.
at the wash, you know, so that transients aren't trying to, you know, talk to them, like, for what? So we're present
Right.
in their lives. Their parents call us. We call them if they miss a day. Hey, where were they? Are they okay? Are they sick? Hey, bring in all your homework. All your homework you haven't done for the entire school year, bring it in. We'll do one at a time. We'll get it done. So my kids have gone to from straight fails to D's, C's, and it's climbing. And that to me is probably the most rewarding thing ever. Like, my work is really, like, I see it. I see what's happening. I see the change. So, that's again, it's the most rewarding position I've ever had.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Well, I was
Just
just
in
trying to
the
make sure.
interest of
that-
time, we gotta get going. We only have 15 minutes.
No, I just tried to make
10
sure
minutes.
we get
10
the
minutes.
connection.
Thank you.
Now, I do wanna come back to Pastor Cruz, but I wanna get her going, cause she does have to go to Jeopardy.
Yes.
If you don't mind just making your,
No. So, just so you know, a couple of
Spiel.
programs I run. I do the reserve officer program here. I'm the coordinator. We do volunteers, community service workers. We're just getting started.